Hey everyone, I'm a huge fan of gear that can get you the results that you want in the shortest amount of time. I've owned a Kemper, I own a Helix, I own a Quad Cortex, and I just got the Fractal FM9 in the mail, and I just set it up. Still has the plastic on the screens. I've hardly done anything to it at all. I want to know personally if I can get this thing Sunday ready in just a day. Right now it's 10:35 a.m. I've got rehearsal tonight at 7 p.m. Can I learn the Fractal and be able to tweak, dial in presets for all my songs in my set list in just this short amount of time? Just thought it'd be fun to invite you along in my brand new journey of learning the FM9, and I'll probably share my frustration along the way and what I'm learning and just how to get it gig ready. And then you get to hear it in action. At the end of this video, you'll see me playing it on Sunday morning and hear some sound examples and see if you think, you know, it turned out okay. And this will just be a journey we can go on together. Sound good? All right, let's dive in. Okay, watching the video, I see this guy has layouts on here. Oh, FC edit. Wow, you can assign buttons to hold. The thing is, yeah, I gotta figure out where how I want to do this here. I'm gonna have to make a decision at some point today whether I'm gonna build my own custom layout or just use what was given to me. I'll probably use what was given to me. Honestly, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of Hislop's layouts. I kind of want a layout that has at least 6 or maybe 7, maybe even 8. Like, I want to see all the scenes.
Now, as you can see, the names get populated by default.
Okay, just finished watching the video on custom layouts. I think I understand it a little bit. Now I'm just gonna have to choose what I want. Now, what I really need to know before I start editing presets and stuff is how to edit like individual parameters on the effects for each scene. So I know in the Helix it was called snapshots, and I was able to say like I want, you know, on snapshot 1 I want the delay time to be 2 seconds, and on snapshot 2 I want the delay time to be 8 seconds, whatever. I want to know how to do that on the Fractal, and I don't yet. So next video. By the way, I found a YouTuber called Rosh Roslin. It's a really hard name to say quickly. Rosh Roslin. Rosh Roslin. That's so mean. But he's got a lot of good videos on the Fractal. Let's look at scenes and scene layouts.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody.
Potty break. Also time for coffee. And we're back. Okay, back to the video. All right, something that concerns me already. Looks like I might be limited to the channels. So like for the drive block, I might only have 4 channel options. So if I wanted 8, then I'd have to have 2 drive blocks and then something like that. I'm not certain it's going to be a huge problem, but I was kind of hoping that in the Fractal, all the scenes, I'd be able to tweak like the knobs on everything for each scene, and I'm not sure that's going to be the case. Okay, so real quick, we're gonna reset the layout to factory default. It's these kinds of things that make me feel so stupid. Like, why can't I just find a way, like the file online, the FC layout file, to the default one so that I can restore my default layouts? I can't even find that. I can't find it anywhere. My Google searches are coming out empty and void. This is okay. It's 11:30. I've been at this an hour. I understand a little bit more about it, but I have a long way to go. Okay, I found it. Why don't I just start with the user manual? Like, it's so helpful. Okay, layouts and resetting the factory layouts. Okay, it was easy, and now I click setup. I can't even find the. Okay, I think I found it. So, okay, set up FC controllers onboard switches. I couldn't find it on the FM9 edit app, but I think it's on the floorboard itself. So now, finally, I'm at the OMFG. Hislop's layout wasn't that much different. I haven't figured out the set list thing yet. I gotta figure that out. I think it's time to pick kind of a starting point for my sound. I downloaded two, like I said. I'm either gonna start and use David Hislop's or worship tutorials as my sort of home base, and then build my songs from there. Not paid by either of them. Let's just give a listen to both the worship tutorials and David Hislop. So this is worship tutorials. Obviously you're not gonna hear the audio through the camera. This is just, I have a shotgun mic in here. It's gonna probably sound crazy, but this is his clean one, drive. Drive plus. By the way, this is Worship Tutorial's newer one with their 1964 AC30 and the tone-matched cab, or however they did that process. Does the fractal capture? I don't know. Maybe it does. This is the ambient clean setting. Sounds nice. The reverbs in the FM9 are great. I like them better than the Helix for sure. For sure better than the Quad Cortex. It's cool. Basically the P&W lead with just a POG added. And then swells. Which I have an expression pedal. It's not working. I gotta learn how to do the expression pedal. Oh, it worked! Oh, sweet. Okay, let's check out David's preset. Let's see how it sounds. So it's a little quieter than Worship Tutorials by default, so just turning up the volume a bit. Sounds nice. The drive one. Drive plus. Lead. I guess that would be the equivalent to the P&W lead from Worship Tutorials. And then 5, 6, and 7 are all, you know, let's see, POG lead, so it just adds the... And then chorus clean. That's nice. Chorus drive. And ambient. I like Hislop's ambient patch better. But let's compare that to Worship Tutorials, Praise and Worship Lead. Let's turn it down again. Really like, there's got the Worship Tutorials has more mid-range, kind of more low mids. It's warmer in general than Hislop's preset. I kind of like it. Now it's not as wide as David's preset because Worship Tutorials is only using a single amp, and the cab is the same on both sides, whereas Hislop's preset, he has dual amps, two totally separate amps. You know, one's an AC30 type and the other's a Fender type, and then the cab has his IRs, you know, and so it's just, in general, it just, on my monitors, it just sounds wider. Also, his lead has a little bit more hair on it. It's kind of brighter overall, and I don't know. I kind of like Worship Tutorials better. The other difference between Worship Tutorials and David's is David has the wet effects after the amps, and Worship Tutorials has the wet effects before the amps, which is a pretty big difference in tone. I like them before the amps, and I know David and Kenyon and Tone Factor, and I know they're used to putting all their delays and reverbs in front of the amps. So for whatever reason, they decided to put it after for this, you know, the Fractal. But I kind of like it. I kind of like the sound of it, you know, the way Worship Tutorials has it before. I just want it to be a little bit wider. I'm also curious to see if Worship Tutorials has another amp that they really like for the Fractal that they've tone matched that is quality, because then maybe I'll bring in that amp and split it. So I have two amps. I'm just used to stereo amps. I just like that sound, and so I'm going to go poke around and see if I can't find something like that. Okay, whoa, I had no idea that Worship Tutorials had all these Fractal presets. I guess it makes sense. Every time they make a Helix preset, they're going to make a Fractal preset, right? So, but all these are like tone-matched stuff for the, man, it's making me really want to buy their pass. All these, see, like, that's where, again, if you're watching this, David and Tone Factor, you gotta keep up a little bit, because these options are pretty great. So I ended up watching a video on the Tone King Imperial. Where is that guy? It's around here somewhere. Right there. Ended up watching this video.
Modernized it. That's just how I would describe it. It's modern. It's tighter.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with it, and we're gonna try to pair this one with the new AC30 and see what that sounds like. All right, so just loaded up the Tone King Imperial for the first time. Very first impressions. What? Ah, cab. Gotta pick the cab. Okay. Ooh, very different. Very different. Got some beef. Can't tell, but my sub in the studio is kind of hitting me. drive. Drive plus, lead. Ambient clean. It's nice. It's different. It's definitely different than the Vox. I kind of like the Vox a little bit better, but you know, for a stereo thing, you know, it could work. Pog lead. Oh, expression pedal is not assigned. Thing. Right click volume, click source, click pedal 1. I'm getting the hang of this. Yeah, I really like Hislop's ambient patch much better than Worship Tutorials. I think they could have done a better job at programming in swells. It's just not that interesting. It's flat. It doesn't move. The tail's not very long. I'm just kind of surprised. Like, I feel like their ambient clean has more interest to it. So I'm gonna have to play with that. I'd like a better swell setting. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just... What? Seriously? Oh, I probably didn't save it once I put the cab in there. Man, all those little things, right? Now we have sound. Okay, a little update. It is 12:30, so p.m. and now, so that's it's been 2 hours. I've been tweaking, watching videos, reading manuals, poking around for 2 hours. I feel like I have a general idea of the layout. I feel like I'm able to manipulate some effects. I've found, I think, a sound that I'm going to work towards as my base, and then I'm going to start programming songs. I still have a long way to go. We'll see if I can do it. So the next step would be combining these two patches, and I want to make one stereo amp patch from the Tone King Imperial and the Worship Tutorials newer AC31. So here we go. Okay, Worship Tutorials AC30, Tone King 1. Here we go. Oh, there's the level for the cab. Let's go to the one I made. I'm noticing the headroom knob peek out. Oops, what did I just do? Is that better than just the Worship Tutorials AC30 by itself? It is wider, for sure. It's wider. Sorry about that, gardener on Thursdays. They're perfectly in phase, it's fine. I know it's kind of scary, but now it's time to start dialing in sounds per song. Maybe a little more verb, let's see. One of the things you just always have to do is listen to it in context. So I love to listen to it without the click, without the guide, without either of the guitars, just to get a sense of how my one guitar sits with everything else. So let's just hit the turnarounds and see. You got to listen to the way your guitar sounds in the context of a mix and at the right volume and the right context at the mix. Sometimes we just listen to our guitar way louder than it will actually be in the mix, and you don't, I mean, that's not super accurate. All right, ate lunch, wasted some time doing some other tasks. Now it's 2:30. Time is getting shorter, and I have 1, 2, 3 more songs to do. I'm getting lost in the wonderful land of tone, and it's 4 o'clock, and I have to go home for dinner. and then go to... I gotta get all the songs. I have like 2.5 songs left to do, and I've got an hour and a half. I have to just bust this out. It's gotta be like a fuzz model in here. Clip shape, bias. It's almost there. It's almost there. It's just like not gated, you know. Like it's. That's a sputtery one. That's a sputtery one. High cut. It's like way down 2000. Chorus, reduce the master depth. Don't have all the effects in there because there's 5 guitars and each of them have different effects. But the problem is you spend too much time dialing in tone, and then you actually get to rehearsal and you're like, oh, I was just dialing in tone. I didn't actually rehearse, but I sound good. All right, moving on. Firm foundation. We're gonna save this. You know, I got to be careful of sometimes is when I'm trying to dial in tone, and I'm dialing in tone kind of based on a pitched version of the track. So like we're doing Firm Foundation in the key of D for a female lead. And so I'm listening to these tracks kind of out of context. So what I'm going to do is load in Firm Foundation in its original key just while I'm dialing in tone. And then, I don't know, what's a resonator? Okay, I ate dinner, went home. It's like 6:55. I'm almost done with this, I believe. And then that's it. Then I gotta go to rehearsal. So I'm hurrying, but it's this has taken me all day to learn the Fractal, watch YouTube videos on how to edit it. Obviously, you get a little distracted during the day, and you have to do some other stuff. But it's taken me a long time to make 4 songs, and obviously I'm getting nitpicky and trying to dive really deep into it and really learn it and all that stuff. But still, you know, it's a learning curve, and it has been. And I think things will get easier moving forward. But I'm almost done. Can't keep talking. I'm gonna go finish. Confession time. Nigel's tone. I mean, it's not like it's bad. I just don't. It's not my preference. So I'm gonna make the choice here to, instead of trying to like squeeze a round peg in a square triangular unit, I'm going to sort of make this sound a little bit more like I'm used to, kind of more, a little bit warmer, maybe a little bit more washy. I try to dial in tone that will suffice on its own, because a lot of the times I might be the only guitar player, and so this, you know, might be a tone like this super bright kind of clean thing pairs well with like an overdriven guitar with less effects on it. But if you just have one guitar, kind of need a little bit more reverb, a little bit more space. So I'm gonna dial that in. All right, I'm way over time. It's almost 8 o'clock, and I canceled rehearsal. To be honest with you, I canceled rehearsal earlier today, not because of this, so I had time. I went home, I ate dinner, kissed my kids, came back, had to finish, because tomorrow's my day off. And anyway, okay, it is 8:07 p.m. What, I started at 10:30, so that's a long time, but I learned a lot about the Fractal, and it was my first time, first week, first day, really setting it up. So I'd say it's a net win. So today is Thursday, but in just a second you're gonna see me, and we're gonna review what it sounded like on Sunday. Okay, so we're back after having played the FM9 on a Sunday morning at my church, and we multi-track record every week. And so what I'm just going to show you is 3 quick examples from our Sunday morning service of tones that I thought turned out pretty good. Overall, I was pretty stinking impressed with the FM9, and I just can't wait to learn it more. But let me just show you some highlights. Okay, so let's jump into a bit of Good Good Father. We did the Soul Survivor version. Let's listen to this. And then let me solo that little section of the guitar for you. Something that I loved about the Fractal was that that I was kind of just missing from my traditional pedal board rig, because you have to understand this whole review has to do with me transitioning kind of from analog pedals back to a modeler. And so one of the things that I missed about a modeler is that I could choose like any overdrive that I wanted. So just to be able to have like a fuzz, guitar on this particular effect paired with a chorus that I could dial in just right was kind of fun. And so I'll show you that tone right now on my guitar. So this is what it looks like. I've got it pulled up here on the F9 Edit app, and then my overdrive is a master fuzz, and then I've got stereo delay and a stereo tri-chorus. And again, my amps are stereo, so deluxe, verb, normal, and then the AC30, and these are Worship Tutorials patches with their particular cabs. So I've got the Tone King Imperial tone matched cab paired with that Fender style amp, and then the Worship Tutorials 64 AC30 tone matched cab or IR for that. And so, just being able to do all that's pretty cool. And so this is that part. Whatever that part actually is, but you get the idea. So that was really fun. I think that tone turned out great. Had a great time dialing it in on the Fractal. All right, let's move on to the next song. So another song we did was This I Believe from Hillsong, and Nigel has a very distinct guitar tone, so it was kind of hard to match it. So I had to kind of just make it my own, but I still feel like it turned out pretty good in the mix. I'll let you hear it and decide for yourself.
Name of Jesus. Our judge and our defending suffer.
And so here's how it sounds coming straight from the Fractal into the interface. So I'll show you a little bit of what I did. You can see the drive right here it's just a Tone of Kings drive, 3.39, whatever that is. Delay, it's the dual delay algorithm with 8th note and dotted 8th note. And I had to kind of really play with the feedback, the left to left feedback, the left to right feedback on this side, and then vice versa. That took a little bit to kind of dial in, but I think in the end it turned out pretty good. That was kind of the highlight for that song. This song, to me, was kind of the hardest one to dial in tone-wise. Again, because I was trying to match Nigel's tone, and it's really hard to do. I would have had to set up the amps a little bit different, and I didn't really want to spend the time to do that. And so I just had to kind of make it sound more like me or more like just the general preset, and that was okay. There were some compromises, but I think it still turned out all right. All right, last song I want to show you is Firm Foundation. And so let's go to that one. And here's how it sounds. So for this song, I really just dialed in like a big, beefy, wet, overdriven sound. At our church, I'm typically the only electric guitar player, and so sometimes I make my patches a little more wet than I normally would, just to cover, like, just so I can play open chords and it just fills that space, and I can play lead lines and it still fills the space. So if you had a rhythm electric and a lead electric, maybe I would dial in this tone a little different, but that's okay. That's what I had going on, and so let me just show it to you, what it sounds like in out of context, I guess. I dialed up a little tremolo swell patch. And then this was my big kind of rhythm / lead wet driven part. Just a quick side note, if you're listening to kind of our recording from Sunday morning and going like, wow, that's a good sounding live stream, I appreciate that. I think it does too, but all credit goes to Luke Hendrickson at Production Online for developing a broadcast template that fits in Pro Tools or Logic Pro, and with all these plugins kind of preset and dialed in. It's got snare replacement and kick replacement. It's got auto-tune stuff going on the vocals. It's got EQ and reverbs and effects and mastering and different bussing and all that crazy stuff that makes the end product sound really, really good. And you can run this live and send this to your stream. And we do this most of the time now, although we have to have a dedicated sound tech for it, and so we don't do it every week anymore, but we used to. And it's just a great way to do it. It also acts as a really cool way to mix your songs post. So what I did is I just took all of our tracks from Sunday morning. We multi-track record every week, and I just drug them into this template, all the parts there. And then just did very few tweaks, just brought up the lead vocal, ducked the background vocals, mixed some things, and pretty much it's kind of plug and play. You drag and drop and get a great sound. So anyway, if you want a link to check out that template, you can click the link in the description below. Okay, so here's the deal. I know I'm still in the honeymoon period, but I just want to give you some takeaways. What I loved about the FM9 and what I kind of wish it still had, or maybe, what I didn't quite like about it. As you can see right here though, like, is it going to replace my full analog board? It very well could. Let's first and foremost talk about the tone, because that's the most important thing. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other benefits to this, but I think at the end of the day, does the tone of this match the tone of analog pedals with the settings the way you like them, carefully chosen into a set of amps that you really enjoy as well? Do those things, can this be as good as that? And I don't know. To me, I think the answer is yes. Like I said, I've owned the Helix. I still own it. I own a Quad Cortex. I have owned Ruby and Dream. I have owned a Kemper. I have owned an Iridium, and then 2 Iridiums. I love modeling, and I'm a huge fan of what it offers, as opposed to going real amps just because of the hassle that it is. And so I am just constantly trying to find the digital amp solution that scratches the tone itch for me. Now, again, this is week 1. I just dialed in some worship tutorials, patches, tweaked them a little bit, and I'm super, super impressed with the FM9. The tone overall is wonderful. The reverbs, I feel like, are spot on. The reverbs are better than the reverbs in the Quad Cortex, arguably better than the reverbs that are in the Helix. To be fair, I haven't given the amps in the Fractal a real deep dive yet, so I shouldn't comment on that quite yet. I only bought the preset and loaded it in, but from what I can hear already, I'm super impressed with it. Honestly, the overdrives are really good in the Fractal. The Quad Cortex has maybe, I don't even know if you'd call it an advantage, but it's just different in that you can capture overdrives. And so to have that ability, if you have an overdrive that you really want that particular sound of, it's easier to match that on the Quad Cortex. But there's so many options in the Fractal, and just kind of working my way through them. As you can see here, there's just so many of them. These are all the different types of overdrives you can have. So just that flexibility alone to go to that list and be able to choose is pretty amazing. And like I said, from my limited time searching, they all sounded really good. Honestly, everything. Reverbs, overdrives, modulation effects. I was super impressed with the tone of just the whole package. So that's number 1 positive thing, what I loved about it, the tone. Number 2, I mean, obviously the portability of it, But like I said, as someone who's gone back and forth between, just Kemper, and then, for a time I've been going through my analog board and all that, just to be able to, I took this home in between Thursday and Sunday, and headphones, and that was just magical. I know most of you who are in the modeler world are totally used to that, and you're like, duh, welcome to the real world. But just to be able to have that portability was amazing, and I love that. I love the fact that on all-in-one solutions, especially the Fractal, there's little things that you can do. Like, if I wanted my clean part for one particular part of a song to have just the overall volume raised or lowered, I can easily do that. Like, those simple things are kind of hard to do with an analog board, and sometimes your gain staging on your overdrives gets a little away from you, and it's hard to make your clean sound really stand out and then not make your overdrives too loud. So you can really hone in the volume levels on the Fractal. The danger, though, is there's still a chance you can run away with that, and so sometimes your lead lines can be a little bit louder than your clean sounds, but at least you have the ability to manipulate all that, and I really miss that about an all-in-one solution, and I love that about the Fractal. I love the ability to just grab exactly what I wanted for the parts. Again, analog board, you're just limited in that way, so just having the flexibility of all these crazy effects, looking at the delay and just knowing that there's all these delay types available. Again, I bragged on the reverbs before, but just look at how many reverbs you have. And I went through all of these, and they just sound good. But just to have that flexibility, so the flexibility is super important and super huge, and I love that about it. The other thing I just absolutely loved is how much EQ flexibility each block has. Almost every block has its own EQ, and that really allows you to kind of detail out your sound that much more. For example, the drive block, you have obviously your tone, and this correlates with whatever, overdrive you have on at the time. I think, if I were to go to this one and then, it changes, you can see the basics change here. So you have the basic tone stuff here, and then, but then you have tone here, and this is consistent across, I'm pretty sure all the overdrives have this tone section. This mid frequency section is golden because the mids are some of the hardest to tame. And this is a very musical EQ of the mid control. Like if you were to turn this up all the way, it's only like a little obnoxious. It's not like crazy. So I'm not exactly sure how much gain this is, giving the mid control or what's happening there. But you can really define those mid frequencies of just the overdrive itself. And then on top of that, you have a graphic EQ that you could do, and you could make it post or pre or just turn it off. And so just the EQ flexibility, I love that. And then you come over to the reverbs and the delays, same thing. You go to EQ and you can look at this visual curve here, and I absolutely love that. And it's really, really helpful and quick and easy to dial in the sound of the tails of delays or reverbs by using this. So I love that. I should give a shout out too to I believe some of these delays have the ducker feature on it. And oh yeah, most of them are, if not all of them do. And I love that because sometimes you want your delay to be apparent when you're not driving as hard. So that's an amazing feature. But just all those little like sub-level features of each block are what are making me just drool over the FM9. All right, there's so much more I could say that I love about it. Let's go into the things I don't like about it. Initially, I wanted the flexibility of the Helix, where each snapshot in the Helix world, or scenes in the Fractal world, each snapshot I could individually control, let's just say the diffusion on the delay. Like on the Helix, I would go to the first scene and I could enable, the snapshot control for diffusion, and I could turn it up, to 34. And then when I went to snapshot number 2, I could drag it down and save that, and then it would be, 0 for that scene, so on and so forth. So in some ways, the Helix was a little bit more flexible because you could do that. I don't know what the limit would be on the Helix. Maybe there was a limit, maybe there's not. But it was really, for me, the workflow of that, it did make sense, and it worked, and I enjoyed using it that way. But after spending some time with the Fractal, I've really grown to appreciate its approach as well. So instead of having the individual control for each scene, you have channels, which are basically just presets on each block. And so you can have, but the thing is, you could have 2 drive blocks, right? So you could have 4 presets. The channels are essentially presets per block, right? So preset A on drive block 1, and then you could have, preset or channel A on drive block 2. So that's a total of 8 different overdrives. Same with the delay, same with the reverb. So essentially, if you wanted to set up 8 different overdrive sounds for each of your scenes, you absolutely could. 8 different reverbs, 8 different delays. You can even do it with amps, although if you do switch amps, there's a tiny little sound gap in there, which is a little unfortunate, but totally understandable. But almost all of these, the compressor, you can have 4 different compressors or however many. I don't even know. You can have 8. There's so many of these you could see that allow you to have 2 different blocks. So like an EQ block, for example, like I can have 4 different EQ blocks, each of those with channels. So the flexibility is, and the power behind it is so insane. So once I kind of learned that, though, the thing is I can choose a different overdrive for each channel, right? You can't do that in the Helix, right? You would have to load in 8 different blocks of different overdrives and then manipulate those and turn them on and off, and then you'd run out of space and DSP power and all that stuff. I just feel like this makes the Fractal so much more powerful. Like, you think about having a pedal board with 8 and this is per preset, right, mind you, where you can have 8 overdrives, 8 reverbs, 8 delay settings, and that's just one song, like one preset. Then you can manipulate that for the next song. So kind of like once I like dove down deep, I'm like, oh my gosh, the Fractal's so much more powerful than the Quad Cortex or the Helix. And I just, now that I kind of understand that, I can approach it that way and then start making presets or save the settings that I like best for, let's say, the Timmy pedal here. Like I save that preset and then add it to the library, and it's just like having like, oh, this is my favorite setting on the Timmy pedal or whatever. And so honestly, like once I just like learned that and figured that out, I'm pretty happy with the way that's set up, and it just takes a little mental adjustment to get there. No big deal. Okay, moving on. There's another thing I don't like about the Fractal is that the cab block. Let's talk about that for a second. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe I'm missing something here, but the Quad Cortex and the Helix now, because of the new update, has this like virtual cab thing where you can kind of look at the speaker and then move the microphone back and forth, or further or closer to the source. Is that a thing? Like in the Fractal, is it just all IRs? Like when you go and pick, are these all just IRs, or are they like actually like simulations of the speaker? I'm not exactly sure how all that works, but it just seems like I was kind of looking or hoping for, just like a picture with the speaker, and I could kind of manipulate the microphone. Maybe they're working on that, but it kind of seems like this is limited to just IRs, which maybe limited's not the right word because they have tons for you to choose from. And obviously you can still adjust all these controls. I honestly haven't given the cab block enough time yet. Again, only like a day and a half messing with it. But I was just kind of hoping for maybe that visual representation of a cab. I'm sure I'll get over it once I learn it, but that was something that like I was a little disappointed by. All right, something else that I was a little disappointed by, and actually both the Quad Cortex and the Helix are better in this area, is that the Fractal just doesn't have that many buttons. The way I would love to see it is the Helix really is the best. You have, I don't know how many buttons are on the Helix, but a lot. And it allows you to have your 8 different snapshots or scenes or whatever, plus like a bank up and down, plus a tuner. It just can fit a lot more on there. And the strips are a little bit, bigger. The Quad Cortex is a little bit more annoying that way as far as that stuff is concerned. But then again, it's a lot smaller. And so I feel like the Quad Cortex and the Helix win as far as just like the physical buttons and layouts are concerned. Now, let's talk about the thing I dislike is the layouts. I'm sure, again, once I learn it and understand it, it will make more sense. I think it was their way of trying to cram everything in with less buttons. I'm definitely still learning how to set this thing up, and I've tried the Worship Tutorials layout, I've tried David Hislop's layout, I've tried their original layout, and then the OFMG, whatever that thing is. And I think I just defaulted to the original or whatnot for now, and I'm still playing with it. But I don't like how you can't change the color of the individual buttons per preset. I know you can change the color of the buttons per layout, but not per preset. Okay, time out. This is a couple weeks later, now that I'm editing the video and whatnot. I have found out how to edit the buttons per preset. There is a way. Sorry I dissed you, Fractal. There's always more to learn on this thing. So this is how you do it, just if anyone else is wanting to know. So you're on here, you're editing a preset, you go to FC Edit, which is foot control edit, and you click the button that you want to change. And there's this thing called a per preset override down in the bottom right menu. If you click that and then say per preset, you basically you have 24 per preset overrides. And so, and all these are just per preset. Nothing's global here, so you can do this for each song. So if I click per preset number 1 override for this trem swell patch, it says this global switch is currently controlled by a per preset override. And then how you edit that per preset override is you come up in the foot controller per preset thing at the top right here, and then you select number 1 right here, and then you tell it what you want to do right here. So in this case, I do want it to select scene number 1. I just want to change the color to, say, blue or whatever. So I click blue right there. If I go back to foot controller, you'll see it turns blue there, and I'm looking down and it is blue on my Fractal FM9. So that's great. You can do that for all of these. If I want to go to the swell patch again, and I want to say I want to do the per preset override to, I just keep it, you know, consistent. So this one's number, well, technically it's foot switch 9, but it's scene 8. So I'm going to go per preset override number 8. Right, and then I'm going to come over to foot controller per preset edit, look at number 8, and then just change it to, say, purple. And again, you can change this to whatever you want. The cool thing is, per preset, you can, if you have, this might be a good example for somebody, but like these two, I'm not going to use the ambi mod and the pog lead. Those came from worship tutorials, right? I'm not going to use those. But what if I wanted just this on this preset, since I have the extra space? What if I wanted this to control an overdrive? Well, you can do that. So click that guy, per preset override. Let's just go make it 6, and then come to FC per preset. Let's find 6, and let's make this the category. Let's make it a effect, and then let's say bypass. Yes, effect. Where am I? Drive 1, like that. Or drive 2 if you wanted to boost it or whatever. And then, again, you can change the color of that. So if you wanted your drives to be yellow, do that. And then come back here. So now this foot switch turns on and off my first drive stage. So really handy, really useful. Kudos to Fractal. So I'm not dissing you anymore. It's a great feature once you get the hang of it. And back to the regular video. Another thing I don't like about the FM9 is the tuner. The tuner sucks. I do like that you kind of have like a little tuner at the top left that's on all the time, no matter what. I was able to program like a press and hold button to activate the tuner where I wanted it. That was nice. Those features are going to be helpful. The press and hold things, those are going to be nice. But back to the tuner. The tuner sucks. I'm going to have to probably just get a different tuner and just run it before the board if I make this my permanent solution or even temporary solution. I love the Sonic Research ST300 tuner. It's just so snappy, so fast, so responsive, and I'm used to that, and this is just slow and clunky, and I just don't feel like it's accurate or locked in, so don't like that. The other thing I don't like about it, there's not enough undo levels. Like, I think you can only undo like 3 things maybe. Again, if I'm wrong about any of this stuff, guys, I would love to hear it in the comments. But as far as I can tell, I can only undo like 3 things. Now, I also watched a different video, which I will link to somewhere, maybe in the description or right here, and that talked about how to use snapshots. And so I started learning about that, and essentially, you know, I could come over here. Let's say I wanted to hear this with a different amp right here. I could first take a snapshot, and that essentially saves this whole picture right here, all the effects with all of their settings. And then I could go ahead and manipulate this amp, save another snapshot, and then compare them by loading those 2 snapshots, for example. And so that's a great way to, and you don't have to save it. Nothing will save until you save it. So I think that's their way of getting around the whole undo thing. So if you know you want to make big changes, you can use snapshots, you know, to like compare different things. But still, I get into moments where I'm like tweaking away and I go, you know what, that was too much and I want to go back, and I hadn't made a snapshot. So more undo levels would be really nice. But hey, that's it for today. I will have a lots more to share about the Fractal, maybe some song-specific presets in the future. Who knows? But encourage you to follow me on Instagram at The Tone Shepherd. And you can check me out on Facebook as well. And again, if you want, you could do the whole subscribe and like thing. That would be awesome. But thanks for checking this out. And I'd love to connect with you in any way, shape, or form. I'm really responsive on Instagram, by the way. So if you follow me, send me a message, ask a question. I'll get back to you, and I'd love to answer it. I love to be a resource for the worship community and have lots of good things in store for the future. So stick around for that. Again, thanks for making it all the way to the end. Sorry it took so long. Have a great week.